Nancy, and I'm currently homeless. I'm a single mom, and I have a 16-year-old daughter.
Take your time. Take your time.
I got evicted on Wednesday. My landlord started calling me on last week on Monday. On Friday, the 14th of August, I called the courthouse and I asked them if I had an eviction order. They told me that I didn't have one. And I told them that my landlord was harassing me. She was calling me. And they told me that she didn't have a right to call me or harass me. And she wasn't even supposed to come to the house. Saturday, Sunday, Monday, she kept calling me. She told me that I had to move because she had other people who could pay more money, 1,600, 1,700. She kept calling me more than 20 times. I ended up having to disconnect my landline because it was, I told her that my daughter was trying to do homework and it kept messing around with the internet. On Wednesday morning, I was making breakfast and my daughter was on the computer. And I heard loud noises on the door. The sheriff came and they knocked on the door. There were about 10 of them. Cars parked outside. And I asked them, I said, "Good morning, what is this about?" They told me, "Step out." I asked them, "What did I do? What is this about?" "Ma'am, please step out." They asked me, "Is there somebody in the house?" I said, "It's just me and my daughter." They said, "Do I have any weapons on me?" I said, "No, I don't have any weapons." They went in the house and searched the house. And they asked me, they said, "Whose garden is it at the back of your house?" I said, "It's my garden." Then I started with my daughter. Then they told me that I had to move because the landlord said that I was doing some illegal activity. The landlord said I haven't paid her. So I explained to them that I'd never received any eviction order. I didn't receive anything in the mail, and I called the courthouse on Friday. They didn't even have an eviction order themselves. So they went over to the landlord, and she gave them something that she filed in November, December last year. So they brought it back to me, and I explained to them that that was from last year. And I asked them to allow me to go get my file so they can actually check the dates and look at the receipts. And I showed them the receipts. They went back to the lady, and she says, "No, I never paid her." So I asked them, "Please, can you allow me to call even the commissioner or 911 because the police in this area, they are already familiar with my situation." They wouldn't allow me. I'm an essential worker. I have underlying diseases. I've been affected by COVID. They threw me out with no shoes. I had to go to the hospital. My daughter, everything. All I just want to say is, this can't keep on happening. They have to protect people. I didn't have an eviction order. I was never notified. When I came back from this is my Bible and other stuff that was. We have to come up with better ways for mothers and single mothers and families.
Especially during a pandemic. This is ridiculous.
I'm not a bad person. I'm hardworking. It's not my fault that there's a pandemic. family. It's not right.
Okay. All right. Obviously, you came with some group of people here. Could you do me a favor, ma'am? You see the county manager right here, Dr. McMorris? I'd like you to leave your information with her, and we're going to follow up on this to see exactly why it is that what the landlord did. All right. And let me make sure we have a contact information for you, so we can get back to you this week. I'm really sorry about your circumstances. I'm sure every member of the board is too.
Cynthia Johnson.
Good evening, Chairman Boyce and Commissioners. Some of you know me personally. Some I've harassed so many times in email. I appreciate you listening to my concerns and doing what you can to address them. To the other commissioners, I have emailed you guys as well, so I just wanted you to see my face and put up my face with the voice that you guys, I hope you heard through my letter that I sent the other day. I want to just read the letter that I wrote, and I'm going to refrain from saying the community that I live in out of respect for them, because I do want to continue a good relationship. I've lived there for 14 years. However, I must speak out. I realize that we are facing many obstacles due to the COVID-19. However, we must not forget that we've been battling a housing crisis in Georgia for years. According to the Georgia Apartment Association, there are more than 410 member companies that own and manage over 410 apartments in Georgia. However, the number of rentals don't compare to the need of the people. So low to moderate income tenants have an extreme difficult time finding suitable, safe, and habitable housing in Georgia and other states. Some of the rentals available in Cobb are very maintained. However, many owners neglect their units, and tenants are forced to live in communities plagued with roaches and mold. It is unacceptable. And inhumane that tenants are terrified of being evicted for complaining, so they're forced to accept these conditions because they have no other place to go. In addition, most renters face eviction because of low-paying jobs, inadequate affordable housing, and no local and federal funding. Every year, millions of federal funds are allocated to Cobb to cover rent for many residents in Cobb County. However, the funds are directed to the Marietta Housing Authority instead of the Cobb County Housing Authority. The residents of Cobb rely heavily on the board to ensure that our partners, including the Marietta Housing Authority, developers and landlords and owners, build and maintain their properties. In addition, residents rely on the board to investigate and resolve tenant complaints. The board must appoint a resident to a Marietta Housing Authority to represent the tenants currently living in apartment complexes. There are no exposure standards for molds, and they can affect people differently. People with respiratory conditions, immune depressed individuals, and young children are especially at risk for molds and can be impacted by them even when others do not notice a problem. Therefore, your constituents are relying on the board to protect the citizens that you serve by investigating this matter. The community that I live in has been in partnerships with Cobb and Marietta Housing Authority for years, and they generally maintain their properties. However, their management and staff have known for years that several of their properties have issues with water intrusions, water leaks, moisture, high levels of humidity, and mold. I believe they intentionally masked over the property, the issues, until their application was financial assistance to rehab the complex was approved by Georgia Department of Community Affairs. On November 27, 2018, the commissioners approved a resolution for the Cobb Housing Authority to issue tax-exempt multi-family housing revenue bonds not to exceed $28 million to finance part of the cost of the renovation that I live in. The complex is located, and I won't disclose that. For the renovation to qualify for maximum federal and Georgia tax funds, the project must continue to be an affordable housing project and not enough partners, and have enough partners so that existing partners will owe less than 50% of the new partnership and have a significant percentage of the total allocated costs for proceeds of this tax exempt issue. The Cobb County Housing Authority, through 501c organization, has a 20% share of the new partnership. Therefore, the board has a duty and responsibility to ensure the mold and damages to tenants are fully investigated and resolved. I look forward to you guys, and I know that certain one of you guys are running for new elections this year, and
Ms. Johnson, sorry.
and we rely on you to make change. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson.
Nicole Smith.
Thank you.
Hello, and thank you for listening to everyone tonight, including me. My name is Nicole, and I've been living in Cobb County since 2002. I searched for it before I left Brooklyn, New York, and it seemed to be the best place for me to live. And I've been on the receiving end of that for a very long time. So I'd like to preface the letter that I initially sent to you guys with these words. You guys struck me as a sort of community that looked after its people. And that's not to say that you dropped the ball, but people do get lost in the shuffle. So going forward, we need to make sure that everybody is included in the shuffle. My name is Nicole, and I'm writing on behalf of myself and my fellow constituents who live in Cobb County, most especially those facing the threat of eviction. I am writing because Cobb County has become a leader in the pathways of empathy, kindness, and care of my fellow man and woman. I know this because I have been on the receiving end of the aforementioned pathways and attitudes. I've had help from churches, I've had help from the people in the schools where I work. I'm grateful for that, and I want people to remember that and recognize that. You can imagine my surprise when I found out about a single black mother and her 16-year-old daughter that were evicted from their home. Even during the second wave of the pandemic, that has changed for the worse the lives of so many. This year has taken a toll on the mental, physical, and emotional health of everyone. Unemployment, fear of losing health care, food and utility insecurity, and for many, loneliness. While I understand that legal proceedings were in place before the county closed down, I would have thought that a moratorium would have been extended over the process regarding anything that was late. Evictions mean homelessness, as folks who are quarantining may not have the space in their dwellings to share with those that are homeless. Evictions mean pushing the fragile mental health of people to the edge from which they may not recover. Evictions mean that it is more important for a fragile economy to recover at any and all costs, that people are overlooked. And the people are the economy. This is not the way to handle these moments. Human beings need compassion. They need security, not callous actions of others. I have ideas to help going forward. The full scope of this issue needs community gathering to assist with solutions. Monica Delancey, founder of We Thrive in Riverside, was an indomitable force for good as she rounded up assistance to help the woman that was evicted. I wouldn't have known about it otherwise. The video that was shared on Facebook was heartbreaking as you watch people helping, and you heard this young baby scream and wail for her mother. I understand You know, they're teenagers, they're almost adults, but that was her mother. I know that we can find a way to keep these moments from happening, I'm sure of it. Financial assistance is only one corner of this issue. The courts and the sheriff's office need to have a better system of communication. Peer counseling and harnessing the power of our neighbors. People we walk past in the supermarket, in Publix. I see you, I say hi. Well, I used to before this. Checking in on those that are struggling financially, physically, and mentally. Let's become the village. I look forward to your response to this message, and thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Denny Wilson.
Good evening, Chairman Boyce and members of the Board of Commissioners. I'm Penny Wilson and I reside in District 4. And I come before you tonight to speak about the eviction process here in Cobb County as well as the state of Georgia. Sharon Cooper, a state representative from East Cobb, did a great deed for the Six Flags community in getting House Bill 346, which was a renters the tenant retaliation bill. She got it through the House and the Senate onto Governor Kemp's desk for his signature on May 8th, and it was signed into law. And as you know, this bill made it illegal for landlords in the state of Georgia to retaliate against tenants or reporting issues with building, housing codes, or utility problems to government agencies by raising their rent or denying services. In speaking with Representative Cooper, I learned she saw the news story on what was going on in the Six Flags area as a call for action. And jumped to action she did. I thank Representative Cooper for her diligence in taking on this battle and seeing it through. But this law falls short of how eviction procedures should be carried out. It's just inhuman to put someone's belonging on the street. The eviction court in Cobb County, from what I have learned, 80% of the eviction proceedings in Cobb are performed against black women. 80% against black women. And I'm just gonna lay the problem where it should be laid. We're under black leadership. We're all in this scene that says Black Lives Matter. Well, what about these mothers with these children that's being put out on the street? And these children see their toys being set out, their books being destroyed. This lady last week, her belongings was in the rain. I mean, people were trying to scramble and get her stuff up and get it in a U-Haul to a storage facility.
Inhumane.
And you know, last week it was pouring down rain. So when you guys start running around saying Black Lives Matter, you need to say all lives matter.
That's right.
Because these are black women. These are your own kind. And if you take an oath to serve the public and to serve the district, then you should also be serving these black women who are being set out on the street, no matter what the circumstances. I mean, now don't get me wrong, I'm not advocating for anybody who does not pay their rent. But sometimes there are circumstances that dictate that they cannot do it. And if you can't lean on the public officials to lend a helping hand, then who can you lean on? I mean, I sent an email to the legislators. Not one of them responded to that email. And we say Black Lives Matter. Come on, you guys. I mean, I appreciate Representative Cooper for what she did. I met with her, I talked to her. I appreciate you, Chairman Boyce, for what you did when you came out to the Six Flags area. You came until they got those apartments up to code. You stayed there the whole time until those apartments were up to code. You hammered those landlords. You made them do the right things for those families. That's the epitome of a great leader. And we all thank you for that. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson.
Sheila Edwards.
Hello, Chairman Boyce and members of the Board of Commissioners. My name is Sheila Edwards. I'm a homeowner and taxpayer in the Milton area of South Cobb. As of a few weeks ago, I was also a candidate for Cobb County Commissioner for District 4. As I begin my comments, I want to take a moment to thank the voters in the district for participating in the political process, as it is always hard getting people to come back out for a runoff election. So I'm deeply grateful and humbled that voters insisted on having their voices heard. As the final vote ballots were counted that night, it revealed several things. First, our community was a winner at the polls that evening, as 4,919 votes were cast for me and the real platform I offered for our community. However, when the final count of absentee ballots was completed, the mail-in votes determined the outcome of the race, with my opponent receiving a greater share. I'm extremely proud of the race that we ran, as we received just short of 50% of the votes from members of the community, which reflected a greater shared concern on the issues we raised, as well as hope for our future in District 4. The votes also reflected discontent with the status quo and an enormous demand for real substantive changes, a fact that cannot be ignored. While running for office, I talked about families, seniors, veterans, our community, wanting, desiring, and demanding more. Nancy's situation falls into this category. I talked about economic development, good paying jobs, and affordable housing that could come from the development of Magnolia Crossing, 50 acres of land that is sat dormant, in which many of the politicians have refused to pursue. I talked about the empowerment of our community in keeping noxious usages from becoming our neighbors and hurting our families and homes. This talk, however, angered some, especially those leaders closest to the very entities and special interests that would harm our community. While in the race for over a year, I stood by the decisions I made and the factual issues I raised. I want everyone to know that I conducted myself in a manner towards my family and my community could be proud, notwithstanding being subjected to some of the most mean-spirited, divisive, distasteful, false, and hateful actions from the very people in our community that call themselves leaders. Yes, I was attacked by a coalition of elected officials and their internet trolls, community organizations, and their marionette leaders, those who would turn around and claim fairness and demand fairness and protection, yet they weren't willing to protect me. I called them the reason why our community would never move forward. In the face of all of that, there were voters and real community leaders who supported me and helped me to weather the false and negative personal attacks and threats. Yes, threats, orchestrated by those so-called leaders. I thank them for their unwavering support, which continues to this day. As a taxpayer, homeowner, and now as a former candidate for office, I have expectations of our government and our community. I believe we are entitled to the best quality of life that is obtainable. These are not expectations that will go away. As I settle back into my role as a community advocate, I want everyone to know that I plan to continue to lead voters in our community in our demand for positive changes in South Cobb. So my talking on these issues will continue. We will watch, monitor, challenge, and hold our elected officials accountable.
That's right.
For what occurs in our community going forward and for what does not occur. I urge the community to remain vigilant and continue to fight with me for our quality of life, as we refuse to be marginalized by politicians, so-called community groups and organizations, and special interests such as waste, concrete, and styrogenics, and the people who represent them, as they are all averse to a healthy and prosperous South Cobb and District 4. My other subject to talk about this evening is about renters' rights, and I joined the group this evening, and I give a nod to Monica Delansky and her renters' rights organization for keeping a light shining on this real-life issue that renters face each day. They have my full support. I want to also address something that's always troubled me, and that is placing a person's personal properties on the street. This remains a sobering and hurtful sight to see families' personal belongings placed on the side of the road. Clothing, books, kitchenware, beds, toys scattered about as if these people never mattered. It is the epitome of man's inhumanity to man that we sit back and allow such an act to take place. I, like many in this room, enjoy a comfortable middle-class lifestyle where I have a home to go back to at the end of the evening, without the day-to-day worries that renters face. Many renters work 2 and 3 jobs in order to keep a roof over their heads, yet they are faced with the possibility that they too could be placed on the road. I've spoken on this issue before, and I will continue to lend my voice and raise my voice in saying we are better than this. Something better needs to occur in these situations, and it's up to us to lead the change on it. Cobb County, we are better than this, and we should be willing to create better ways to deal with these types of situations, does not cause further harm or damage to the family, especially children.
Ms. Edwards, I'm sorry, your time's up.
Thank you.
Ms. Walker? Anisha Walker?
Thank you, Ms. Edwards.
Good evening, Chairman Boyce and Commissioners. I want to thank Ms. Monica for leading this fight and asking me to be here this evening. I am a local realtor in the Austell area, and my husband and I have lived there for over 13 years now. And as a realtor and financial planner, I hear every single day from clients the struggle to find suitable housing. 30% of Georgia households rent their homes. Half are cost burdened, according to HUD. More than 30% of household incomes go to rent and utilities. These families routinely must choose to pay the rent, keep the lights or heat on, or pay for food. Other inevitable expenses like a car repair, a doctor visit, expensive prescription medicine put families at risk of not being able to pay the rent. Eviction is the leading cause of homelessness, and 40% of homeless families are families with children. Evictions harm children and adults' physical and emotional health and cause school disruption, job loss, property loss, increased ER visit risk and hospitalization. And eviction records make it very difficult or impossible to rent the next home. And we know that Georgia's eviction rate is one of the U.S. highest. We need further protection of renters, more affordable housing, economic development, and we need to hold these landlords and property managers accountable and to a higher standard than what I see every day when I'm out showing these properties. What I witnessed last week with Miss Nancy and her daughter was heart-wrenching. I implore you to protect the citizens that you serve because it really does take a village, especially during this pandemic when people are losing their jobs.
Mm-hmm.
We need to get ahead of this eviction pandemic because it doesn't have to be. And I thank you for hearing me this evening.
Thank you.
Denise Strumman?
Here today. Thank you, Ms. Monica, for inviting me to come. I and other families have been impacted with COVID, lost wages. I have reached out to churches to get assistance for rental. I've been on Zoom calls, although we have assistance in Cobb with Star Seed, and in the apartments complex are not allowing the owners, not allowing the assistance with Star Seed for my apartments and other family members' apartments. And I would like to make a suggestion on why we can't have assistance for family members that are trying to live day to day and get assistance for their family, and they're just being pushed back on the back burner, where in certain situations when it's time for voting, it's we get emails, junk mail saying, hey, vote for this person, but when we need assistance, it's like, okay, you're just another number. And I would like to just take the time out and voice my opinion on that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am.
Jessica Renee.
Good evening. Time goes fast, so excuse me if I go fast. I'm a mother of 8 children. I've come to Cobb County for the past 4 years. When my situation first started to get assistance, I went to the Must Ministries. This most recent time in February to let them know what was happening, and I was getting an eviction because I sued the apartments I was in due to it being roach infested, rat infested, having bed bugs. And I won the lawsuit in October, and right now they have an eviction on my background as of October because I won a lawsuit. So every place I go, I'm being turned away from because I have an eviction that never even happened. When I went to Must Ministries, a mother of 8 children, everywhere I go, there's so much help for a male that's on dope, an alcoholic, a mother who's working. I have my own business cleaning. I went and did what Must Ministry said. They said because I have my own business, I don't have real income to most people. So I got a regular job. I lost my job as a director at Tumbles here in Marietta because of your COVID. I went and got another job. Even me having this job, paying $10.50 an hour, I work between 50 to 60 hours a week, and I'm living in my car with my children. Must Ministries asked me to come up with the security, not the security deposit, it's a $250 administrative fee plus the application fee. So everywhere I've been, I paid these $50 application fee, $90 application fee, and nothing comes from it. After I did the Must Ministries way, Must Ministries shut down and said, due to COVID, we can't help you, which left me and my 8 children out with nothing. But they have a shelter that we were supposed to go into. We couldn't even access the shelter, me and children. So I said, well, what do I do with the children? I even called DFAX on myself to say, hey, I need some type of help. I'm working, but we sleep in our car. Nobody cares that we sleep in a car. Nobody cares that I take my children and I put a sheet up to the van to allow my children to take
I'm about to cry. I'm about to cry.
I work, and I'm never asking for anyone to give me anything. I work. My 18-year-old son works, and he makes more money than me. Even with him trying to put things in his name, we're getting nowhere. And it seems like everybody's so, like she said, consumed with this Black Lives Matter. Well, that's not true, because what Black Lives Matter stands for is for police brutality against so-called black people. I'm Aboriginal. We're Native. We're not black. We're not African American. My family has taught me, I'm like 37 years old. My family has taught me we are native to these lands.
That's right.
We never get handouts. I was told in Gwinnett County when I had to leave and they sent me to Marietta because that's where the first problem started. How can you take care of all those children by yourself with no government assistance? I wasn't on Medicaid or food stamps, no housing. I did it on my own. And they took my children for 9 days for homeschooling them because I couldn't help them understand how I could take care of my family by myself. So now that I need help, there's no one. Now that I'm asking to say, whatever you need me to do, I will do that outside of laying on my back, because I'm going to be real raw, so I apologize, and robbing and killing people. Whatever I need to do to help my family be greater than great, I'm going to do that. And every turn I've done what they've asked me, Must Ministries and all these other places, and nothing has come from it besides doors closed, besides people looking at me like I'm crazy for being transparent finally. Because before, I would say, hey, I'm okay. Everything's fine, because I'm not used to asking for help. So now that I open my mouth as of truly February of this year to Must Ministries, trying to be so transparent, I had to sit there crying on the floor with my little baby because the head person at Must Ministries said, well, we can't do anything because the government shut down. We can't. I said, well, hold on. I just gave them the only $300 I had because at the time I didn't have the job they requested me to get. I'm on disability. So the $837 that I get every single month for myself and my children receive a $5 check. That's not enough to sustain a household on. So with us living in a car, I went and, since I got a new job, and bought a van. That van I just had to take back to the place, and I just got that last week because the axles are messed up on it. That was $1,300 that I had to take out to get that van so we could sleep in it. prior to that van, we were at a hotel. $110 a day is what I'm paying at a hotel. I ask again, is there any help to help with that? There's a company called PCCI, say they'll help us move into a place, but they can't help us in a hotel. We got approved to buy a home. I don't have $9,300 to put down on this home. So it's, what do you do when you have all these people that claim they're gonna help, but there's no help?
Sorry, Thompson.
I appreciate you all.
Thank you.
Davita Carter?
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Davita Carter, and I'm a constituent in Cobb County. Also, I live, and my husband used to work in Cobb County, but because of COVID, he's a chef that works at a restaurant in Home Depot Supply. They've been closed down since April. No fault of his own, he's been with the same company for 8 years. He was supposed to get a raise, he was supposed to get 3 weeks vacation this year. So he's sitting home because of COVID. We have 4 adult children. 3 of them are girls that work in the food industry, the hospitality industry that's been hit so very hard because of this pandemic. I have adult children with grandchildren that's in Cobb County schools. So first thing I want to talk about is the evictions and the unlawful evictions, especially during this pandemic. Some of my family has been faced with this because they have the loss of their jobs, to no fault of their own. Now they're trying to start up their own businesses because we are very resourceful people. And, you know, I feel the same way. This is our land. I'm a Cherokee. I'm American Indian. This is our land, and we should not have to worry about having a job or making a living or having a business here in the state that we live in the counties that we live in. Also, with the school thing, okay, I'm having a problem with my children calling me, telling me that they cannot log into the Cobb County school system because they're crashing. That's a big problem. So our children's education is being thrown on the wayside. I have 21 grandchildren out of 5 adult children. So this is a big problem. Fulton County have offered, and I have other children that's in Fulton County, they have offered a lot of help with the schools as far as, like, I have daughters that are single parents. They have one device, their only phone. So she has to go try to make some money and leave her phone so her child can sign in and do the work all day. Cobb County does not help them with these devices. There should have been it's been months that should have been planned out a lot better for these schools. My other children in Fulton County, those teachers and stuff, they help them get devices, use laptops so they can log in and do their schoolwork. Now, we're paying taxes. What is going on with our tax money? There are funds that are being allocated for Cobb County, Public Indian Housing, the HUD. There's millions of dollars that's being allocated for our county that we're not seeing in our communities at all. So I just wanted to come up here and support Miss Monica. She does a lot for our community on the Six Flags Riverside Parkway. Helps with, all throughout the summer, helps with school, giving the school children weeks worth of food, lunches, because some of those children, they didn't get a good meal unless they were in school. And it's a shame. It's a lot of people out of work right now. And it's like, people are heartless. People are heartless. And that's basically all I had to say. And I think that, the courts should give more than 7 days. Give people at least 30 days to get themselves together and try to get another job. Try to get another place to live. Because we do have a very big homeless population in Georgia. I went and fed the homeless down there by Grady, near Martin Luther King Edgewood section last Saturday. And I'm struggling myself. I'm disabled on a fixed income, and my husband is out of work because of COVID. We were making it before this. Now it's a big struggle. So that's all I wanted to say, and thank you for your time.
Monica Delancey.
Good evening. Definitely did not want to return on this rainy evening speaking about another eviction of a black woman. You know my story all too well, how I was evicted with my 2 children 2 weeks before Christmas. They even put out the Christmas tree. Okay? So when Nancy called me last Wednesday, screaming in the phone, said, Monica, Miss Monica, please come here now. They're about to put me out. I told my sister Courtney, I said, I have to go see about Nancy. So I immediately rushed down to 1324 Ling Drive, Austell, Georgia, in unincorporated Austell. And I did not get out the car because I saw 8 shelves. I could see 8. I guess the other 2 was in the house. But I said, well, let me just monitor from outside to see what I need to do. And then her daughter come outside screaming, saying, my mom is having a heart attack.
Jesus.
My mom is having a heart attack. And I said, just come on, let's get in the car. And let's, the paramedics came and they was able to assist Nancy. But then the eviction was starting. And I couldn't lift no furniture by myself. I couldn't do that. So I put out a call through Facebook. Walker saw the post and was coming down the street at the same time. Thank you, Miss Tamisha, for coming. Her and her husband helped out. Miss Cynthia Johnson, you heard speak from, she came right away and went and picked up the U-Haul truck for me so I could stay there and watch, because some people are heartless. They come by, try to take people things, so I had to stay and watch. And then another lady sent her husband and son over to help start moving the furniture. And another lady, she said, what else do you need? What do you need? She went down to the U-Haul place because they wasn't taking the card, because that's all we had. So she went down and took cash down so we can get this U-Haul, because we can see the clouds. We can see the grade's going to start raining. So not only is the 6-year-old daughter of Nancy is homeless, but she's out of school because all the school is taking place online. So we don't know how Nancy, or we don't know how anybody from those 300 people that before COVID was seen on a weekly basis in Cobb County Magistrate Court for evictions. We don't know what their story or what transpired, but we do know that low wages, when you tell someone you're going to pay them $12 an hour, what is that going to pay when you have children? So obviously, at some point, you're going to see yourself in eviction court. Okay? But we don't have to have our things put out on the street, on the sidewalk. It should be a better process. And I'm sure, and I'm not making assumptions, but I don't know. I think there's a better way to say, okay, we have 10 evictions planned for district so-and-so. Maybe contact that commissioner and say, are there any more resources? Okay, well, there's no more resources, the landlord's not ready to talk to this person, but can we arrange for a U-Haul or arrange for movers so that we don't have to put these latest things in the rain? Because there were things that were broken. You saw the Bible was ruined, but there were glasses broken, picture frames broken. They putting out, books that people actually have books, and they're putting them out. It's going to get rained on. So yes, I'm glad that everybody's here tonight. When I get naming names, I miss names, but thank you to everybody that came. Miss Rhonda, Deterius and his family, Courtney, Miss Georgia, Davida, and again, Miss Tamisha, her husband, Miss Sheila Edwards, Denny Wilson, because it takes a lot. Miss Monique is here, that lives in Kingsley Village, but it takes a lot to mobilize people to come out on a rainy evening. So I do want to acknowledge them and thank you for the time, and not one more eviction should take place on your watch. Thank you.
Ooh, amen.
Thank you, Ms. Delancey.
Charlotte McCray.
I'm not here for that.
That's okay, ma'am. It's open for comment.
Good evening, Commissioner Boyce, and all the other commissioners. My name is Ms. McCray, and I both reside and I work here in Cobb County. I provide public transportation services within Cobb and Fulton counties, and I'm here requesting your consideration, approval, and disbursement of hazardous work pay for the employees of Cobb Link, of which I am an operator. On March 24th, 2020, Commissioner Boyce issued an executive order declaring a state of emergency due to COVID-19, directing all county citizens to shelter in place with the exception of those determined to be essential. Despite this declaration, as we heard earlier, and the apparent and non-apparent dangers of COVID-19, Cobb Link and its employees continued and still continue to provide the citizens of this county with their transportation needs. As of August 18th, 2020, Georgia now leads the nation with its rate of new coronavirus cases per the White House as reported in the AJC. To date, we have lost one known fellow employee to COVID-19. We've also lost another employee to an apparent heart attack at the young age of 44. As operators, we work ground zero every single day, having extremely close physical contact with not only the public within Cobb and Fulton counties, but also with the high-risk public of both counties, the essential workers, the elderly, the homeless, and those with compromised immune systems. Some with masks and some without. No other profession has a higher risk than us except the healthcare system of Georgia. We do this all while being shut up in a tubular mode of transportation, labeled and considered a weapon of mass destruction, with air recirculating within itself several times over. We then return back to our families with the hope of not compromising our very own homes, but not without first reporting back to the depot and having contact with the dispatchers, supervisors, mechanics, and leadership of Cobb Link. We at Cobb Link are valuable. A fair amount of hazardous work pay is an additional $2 per hour from the date of the shelter-in-place order issued up until such time as our risks are removed, which is looking like end of year. This amounts to approximately $320 of hazardous pay per month. This additional $2 would be across the board for all Cobb Link employees, but a favorable amount would be an additional $3 an hour, which would amount to an additional $480 a month. These amounts are still much, much lower than the amounts received by the non-essential workers of Georgia who were permitted to stay safely at home with their families. They received an additional $2,400 a month. And I thank you now in advance for your consideration, approval, and disbursement of hazardous work for the Cobb Link employees, your county public transportation provider. And I was under assumption that I only had three minutes, but I enjoy transportation. I enjoy operating my vehicle, customer service, I enjoy all of that. But when we show up, we are face to face with the public, with COVID, with whatever. But we keep showing up, and we're going to keep showing up because that's what we do. We're good employees. We're great employees. I just really hope that the value that is placed on it, and unfortunately right now in this system, money is a value. It's a measure of value.
I've heard things of $500, I've heard things of $1,000. When you break that down, it's like $2.70 a day if it's 500. It's like $5.55 if it's 1,000. I understand all of that, but I really do believe that it would be fair to add it onto our wages on top of what we already received, and for it to be covered all the way back until we started in this situation, because we never stopped showing. We had to take turns to, some people take turns, we go get tested. Some people, you come in, you fill in, you do the overtime, you cover the routes, you do the best you can. We did all of that, and we are valuable. And right now, as I said a few moments ago, money is the measuring value here for Cobb Lake. And I thank you for your time for speaking.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Ken Al.